Yo, quick note before we get started. Today's episode is a third installment of Dreamaking in public. So think building in public, but not just with companies. It's building a life around your biggest dreams and exploring the unconventional path it takes to get there. So every fortnight, you'll hear from a dream maker around their early 20s who's building anything from tech startups, streaming services, branding agencies, podcasts, and stronger systems and philosophies for life. These guests will return every few months so that we can explore their progress, setbacks, and learnings on the journey together. So if you're on an unconventional path, chasing wild dreams, or curious about how others like you are starting, this is for you. All right, welcome to another episode of Ex-Vicarious. I'm Braith, and today I'm joined by Vincent Lee. Vincent is learning everything about tech sales at an exponential rate, graduating from Earlywork Academy last year and landing sales development rep roles with Tyro Payments and Arctic Wolf right afterwards. Amongst all this, he's also the co-host of the Wings of Sales podcast and is completing a Bachelor of Commerce at UNSW. Let's jump right in. Vincent, bro, how are you going this morning?
I'm doing great. We had a little bit of I should say, a little speed hump this morning with recording issues, but we got that resolved. So I'd say that's definitely a testament to you, mate. Being persistent. I'm
Well,
keen to get into this podcast, man.
yeah, no, I really appreciate you staying on with all those issues. Keen to get it started now. I just wanted to start off with your background a little bit. Is there anything you want to tell people about yourself and I guess your journey, just how you got into tech sales and all that?
Yeah, my story, I'd say, started about 6 months ago, and that was when I was in my second year of uni, and everyone around me was hustling for internships, going for these big four vacationers, and I felt myself getting trapped into a rat race where I was hustling with all these other people, gunning for these internships, and that's why you saw me doing the EY Game Changers Club, where essentially it fast tracked you to an internship at EY. But look, I realized that there was a great opportunity in tech sales, and how I stumbled across this was literally going to a Fishburners event, and it was about people and startups, and I met Dan Brockwell there. So literally, I went up to him after the event and said, "I really love what you're doing with Earlywork. What's your advice to a uni student like me?" And his word for word, based on what degree you're doing, the best two avenues for you to go down is sales and marketing, right? And I took that to heart, and literally about 2 months later, I'm in the Early Work Academy, graduated from there 3 weeks later, and all of last year until I'd say like February, I was just grinding the job applications. So hundreds of job applications. Finally got my first gig at Tyro, worked there for a few months, and now I've transitioned into cybersecurity. So that's what kind of brings me here today, from starting in uni and hustling to now working in sales.
Yeah, that's really cool. And shout out Dan Brockwell. I was the first guest for my blog actually before the podcast. So some pretty cool moments there to see you here today as well. You discussed being in that rat race, feeling like all these people are playing all these vacationers and internships. And I guess what sort of put you in the environment that felt like that was the initial path that you wanted to go on? Because I noticed that you were in uni societies like BSOC and Business One. So yeah, just wanted to touch on um, what the whole environment was like there and what everyone's goals were while you were in those sort of societies and what sort of things you learned about yourself while you were in all those uni societies.
I'd say two things. Number one, you realize everyone is so hardworking. Everyone is all like really grinding to either go into investment banking or consulting, which are amazing roles. You get paid really well. But I realized for me that in order for me to stand out, it's really difficult when you play in that saturated market. And ultimately, sales is a huge untapped market that not many people know about, and you can get compensated very well. So that's the first thing. And then I'd say the second thing is that there's this one quote that I remember from listening to Dan Brockwell's like TEDx talk, which was like, you put 60,000 hours over your lifetime into a job, right? why do something that you don't enjoy, right? Do something that you're
Mm.
actually passionate about and you enjoy. And for me, I didn't really see myself working in investment banking or consulting. Like that passion wasn't really there, but building relationships, that strong like sort of customer experience I had from working in retail, that transitioned really well into tech sales. And I saw that that was a good fit for me because I enjoyed talking to people and I was also able to do that in my role. So it was like the perfect marriage between those two skills.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. And I know that you were the host of the Business One podcast as well. So, how was that experience with the podcasting? And I guess, how did that help you transition later on to actually starting your own podcast?
I think first of all, that really broadened my knowledge and I guess my worldview into the startup world because I was interviewing Hayden Smith, who's a co-founder of Perla. I was interviewing the head of marketing at a new cybersecurity AI startup called Nullify. And I also interviewed Ryan Van. And I think from all these experiences, you realize like how much opportunity is out there, right? And I think that sort of kickstarted my journey in podcasting because I realized, hey, this is a gold mine of opportunity for me. As a 20-year-old student, I'm getting access to CEOs, founders, head of marketing people, all these people at amazing startups. Turo, head of marketing, was one of them. Another legal tech. There's so many different startups out there. And I think this opportunity like made me realize podcasting when you're interviewing other people is literally free mentorship. You get to
Mm.
listen to someone else's story and journey and learn from their experiences. And it's like getting a shortcut to the destination that you want to go to, right? So that's what I've learned.
Yeah, that's really cool the way you described it with the free mentorship. And yeah, just going deeper into Wings of Sales, because you decided to go down tech sales, how has starting a podcast for it, talking about sales with a lot of sales professionals, how has that helped you learn quicker? And for people who don't know, could you just give a little bit of context about Wings of Sales as well?
Yeah. So I started a podcast called Wings and Sales, and literally all we do is chat to sales leaders and other sales reps about sales. So all things sales, cold calling, objection handling, all of that jazz, while eating some wings at the Earlywork HQ office. So if you love wings and you love sales, feel free to shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. But yeah, the reason why I started this podcast, Wings and Sales, is that I really wanted to develop my sales skills. And I have this goal, which is I write this down, which is I want to be the best salesperson. I want to be the best version of myself as a salesperson. And the way that you do that is you got to keep learning. Like every single day, you got to get 1% better. And ultimately, the way that you can learn is talking to other people who've done it. Talk to people who've been in your shoes. I've talked to Victor Nguyen, who was a BDR at Salesforce. He achieved 388% of his quota. Absolutely smashing it. I want to learn from him. How did he do that? I talked to another sales rep called Mac, who's at Datadog. He got promoted from an SDR to an account executive in about a year. So that's really quick in terms of his career progression, and he's very successful. So I think that's the beauty of this, and that's why I'm doing it. So at the end of the day, it's ultimately to just upskill myself. I can learn more about sales and ultimately improve myself.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what are some of the more surprising pieces of advice that you've gathered from doing that podcast that you've actually actioned yourself or put in a plan to start using?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that we never ever see the hard work that people put behind the curtain, behind closed doors. People don't realize what the top 1%, these top performers, are doing. They do like the stuff that 99% of the people don't do. Those people who are outperforming other people, they're staying late after work to just keep calling and doing more work. They're starting their day earlier, starting at like 7 a.m. or 6 a.m., which is which is stuff that not everyone's willing to do, right? I think what stood out to me was Dave Shepherd, who was an ex-country manager at HubSpot. He started as an SDR and rose to the ranks of a country manager. And his story is all about that resilience, persistence, because he would race with his co-worker to see who could get into the office earliest. So they would have a competition. Hey, who can get in at 6:30 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. And he says by the time it hit 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., he was absolutely exhausted. So I think the common thread that I've learned is that the people that are exceptional at sales or people who are high performers, they always put in the hard yards. And I think as humans, our minds are tuned to just see all the successes, but we never see the failures. We never see the hard work that people put in. So that's my biggest learning. It's if you want to be successful, you just got to be willing to do the stuff that other people aren't.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like the that whole notion of hard work. And I think for some people they may see tech as an industry where I guess the lifestyle is a lot more relaxed than let's say corporate. But as you said there, when it comes to sales, there are still people, the people who perform the highest, who put all those extra hours in. So I just wanted to draw the comparison. Let's say you're working at a top four accounting firm and you're working all these extra hours every day compared to doing tech sales and you're working all these extra hours every day. What do you think the outcome difference is on yourself?
The number one biggest difference is that when you put the extra hours in accounting, you're not getting compensated for that. You're not getting rewarded for overtime. In sales, it's what you put in is what you get out. So if you work overtime, that directly translates into you getting paid more. So that's the beauty of sales. You get commission, right? So that's a good incentive for you to work harder. So that's probably the biggest difference in that sense. Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah, that's cool. And for people who don't really know how commission works or like on target earnings, could you delve into that a little bit?
Yeah. So for a tech sales role, there's two parts of your salary. One is your base salary. So that might be 65K or 75K, which you get paid yearly. You get that no matter what. So that's guaranteed. However, the beauty of sales is that the second part is that you get commissions, which can be up to 20 to 30K as an entry level role. And that's based on your performance. Every month or every quarter, if you hit your target, say your target is 10 deals to close, and you close 10 deals, then you get paid out your commission. However, if you overperform, there's an opportunity to earn even more than your commissions. So that's the great part of sales, which I love.
Yeah, that's really cool. For yourself, just with your own experiences, how has understanding how putting more work in can actually give you more earnings, how's that shifted the way you approach work? And are there any examples of certain days where you decided, I'm going to keep grinding, go to work earlier, stay at work later? Yeah, how's it influenced your own experiences and what's been the outcome of it in the time that you've done tech sales?
I'd say two things. Number one, given my context of I'm a 20-year-old, like right now, I have the energy and capacity to just work really hard. And the reason why I'm working so hard right now is by the time that I'm 30, I want to be able to reap the rewards of all my hard work. So I say that in the sense that when I'm 30, I want to have all these responsibilities, going to be raising a family, going to be having like a partner. So I'll be a lot more busy in terms of responsibilities. As a 20-year-old, I have no responsibility. There is no downside of me working extremely hard. And I've got the most opportunity and the most energy when I'm 20 rather than I'm 30 years old, right? So that's the first reason why. And then two, what have I actually done? So like an actionable step from this. I'd say one is just waking up earlier and starting my day perhaps at 7 a.m. instead, or maybe starting at 8 a.m. instead of the 9 a.m. That really helps me because you're preparing for the day and once it hits 9 a.m., you can just start working straight away rather than the usual style is like you get into office at 9 a.m., grab a coffee, catch up with some friends, and then maybe you finally actually start working at 10 a.m. So you've already lost an hour of the day. So that's the first thing. Second thing is just batching stuff that you're doing. So, for example, if it's LinkedIn posting, I'm not creating one LinkedIn post each day. Like I'm batching it on the weekends. I'm creating 5 LinkedIn posts on a Saturday and just grind it out for an hour, schedule that for the whole week so that it's more efficient in terms of how you're managing your time. So yeah, that's what I've done.
Yeah, for the LinkedIn posting, just want to touch on that. So, how do you actually get started with that? Because I know a lot of people, especially when you're younger, posting on LinkedIn is not the norm. And even overall, just in general, like there's such a small percentage of people that actually post on LinkedIn compared to the amount of people that have an account. So, what compelled you to start posting at such a young age? And what was the impact you wanted to have with your LinkedIn posts?
Yeah. To address that first question, I think it's imposter syndrome. Most friends that I talk to are afraid to post on LinkedIn. They overthink it. And I've encouraged a lot of my friends to actually post on LinkedIn. And I'm super proud because they've actually posted on LinkedIn. And I commented and reacted. I'm like, man, awesome post. Good job. So honestly, I think people just need that push. People don't realize that LinkedIn is so valuable and there's so much opportunity there. So yeah, I think that's just number one. Number two, how I actually got started was literally during, I know I'm shouting out Dan a lot, but literally during the Earlywork Academy, Dan had one episode where it was just about personal brand. And that just changed me because he was like, LinkedIn, there's over 1 billion users online and only 1% of the people post. So just by creating a post on LinkedIn, you're already in that 1%. So that's how easy it is. That's your barrier to entry. Just literally just post something on LinkedIn and you're already doing better than 99% of people. So that's what I've done. And yeah, I've learned a lot.
Yeah, just do a post and you're better than 99% of people who haven't posted anything at all. So I really love that framing. I guess, through the journey of posting, how long has it been now since you first started?
My first post was in last year, 6 months ago in December, I think.
Yeah. So over that 6 months, how has the way you write or the way you try to convey ideas to the audience changed? And what would you say is the most surprising thing you've learned over this 6 months of doing LinkedIn posting?
Number one, I'd say I want to shout out Will for this one. He's an absolute LinkedIn guru, but he preaches about the you got to stop the doom scroll, which is when someone is on LinkedIn, it's just like any other social media platform. You have to stop the scroll, right? So that that three-liner preview is where you can grab someone's attention. You need to capitalize that real estate of someone's attention really quickly in that 1 second. Otherwise, they're scrolling past your post. It has to be something that's controversial, not really controversial, but at least thought provoking. And it wants them to see more. You want them to click that see more button. That's the first tip I'd say. Number two, I'd say what I've learned throughout these whole 6 months is you can get so many opportunities from LinkedIn. So, one, I've landed job interviews and I've fast tracked some of my interview stages through reaching out on LinkedIn to the recruiters. I've cold DM'd other sales reps on LinkedIn to ask for a coffee chat. And obviously, I've met so many other people on LinkedIn, learning from them as well, including you, Ray, including Will and other people. So I think that's what I've learned from LinkedIn. It's just such a great opportunity in terms of, I guess, finding other people that are like minded to you. Because if you post on LinkedIn, most likely the other person is also thinking in a similar way to you. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. The reason we met is actually through both of us posting on LinkedIn. So yeah, it's awesome. Definitely the type of opportunities that it can open up that isn't obvious. By Will, was that Will Eisenhuth, by the way?
Yeah, well, as it is.
Yeah, shout out. You may have just teased a future guest. More on that soon. More on that soon. But I wanted to jump back in time a little bit now. Bit of a right turn. I just wanted to ask you, what's the earliest dream you remember having that has stayed with you to this day?
That's a pretty deep question. I'm gonna have to think about that one. I honestly think the earliest dream I ever had as a kid was I wanted to become an NBA basketball player. So yeah, I really loved playing basketball when I was growing up, and I was like, yeah, I want to be in the NBA. I want to be the next Jeremy Lin. Or so yeah, I think that was my biggest dream when I was younger. Until I realized I stopped growing. But
Before the height stopped us all. Yeah, I love basketball in my younger days as well. But yeah, is there a dream perhaps after that has actually stayed with you? Something that you still want to put a lot of time into, something that is still achievable?
hmm, I genuinely think my dream and what like my why in life has always been to like help other people and help as many people as I can. And I think that just stems from my early days when I graduated from high school. I would literally, this sounds funny, but I would literally coach kids at my local basketball court. And I really just found so much value and I enjoyed teaching younger kids and helping them to develop their skills and teach them how to shoot a basketball or giving them little pointers and tips there. I think my passion and my dream has always lied with people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think maybe you got to return to those courts soon, bring some wings with you, and teach those kids about sales as well.
Yeah.
That could be the next step. So I wanted to ask also, earlier on in life, did you ever feel that there were any barriers to you being able to help people? So whether that's barriers to your impact or barriers to your own confidence in being able to help people.
I think the biggest thing holding me back in the day was thinking that you couldn't really help anyone in that situation. You think that you have to be experienced or you have to reach a certain age or you have to reach a certain level to start helping other people. But ultimately, you can start helping other people at any age, at any time, right? You don't need qualifications to help other people. And I think that's what I've learned. So, yeah, it's pretty important just to start helping as soon as you can. And I think most of it is just in your head when you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I can actually help them. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I guess those barriers in your head where you weren't sure of how you could help, how'd you get over that? Were there certain mindsets that you adopted to start feeling, I guess, more confident to put yourself out there and look past whether you had the qualifications to help them? Did you practice any habits or routines that, started making you more consistent in being able to lend a voice to other people and, help them in some way?
When I was younger, I was very introverted and shy. I was a pretty awkward person. So I think that's what held me back when I was a lot younger. But I realized that those kind of barriers was just really like a mental barrier inside of me where I didn't think that I could help other people. But once I like started going through high school, going through university, I was able to open up a lot more, and that's where you realize the value that you can provide, and you open up more. It's like a flower sort of blossoming where you open up your petals and you can start like feeding other people and helping other people, and I guess spreading that help that you can. But I think when you're younger, you're just a bit more closed off, and I think that's what kind of held me back a little in that sense. So yeah.
So how'd you get over, I guess, being shy?
Mm.
And do you still consider yourself an introvert now or not?
No, I don't think I'm an introvert now. I'd say I'm pretty extroverted. I'd say how I overcame that probably is just realizing that this is gonna sound very morbid, but it's the fact that we're all gonna just become stardust. We're all gonna disappear one day. Like all of us, after 100 years, no one's gonna remember who we are, and the only thing that people remember you for is the impact that you had on them, and the impression you had of them, like how you made them feel. People aren't gonna remember how much money you made. People aren't gonna remember, I don't know, what kind of job you worked. People will only remember the impact that you had on their life, and I guess that's what kind of made that switch in me, where I realized, hey, it doesn't really matter if people judge me or if people think a certain way because I say something. Like, it's just more important to just say it. Because obviously, I was an overthinker before, but I think the way to overcome that is just have a 3 second rule. Hey, if you want to say something and you have it in your head, just say it. Otherwise, just move on. So it's just like count to three in your head. Either say it, do it, or don't worry about it. So yeah, I think that's pretty important because I think a lot of us, it's pretty common to just be in your head too much and worry about what other people will think. So I think it changed after I read the book by Mark Manson, which is like the subtle art of not giving an F. So yeah,
You can say it, bro. There's no what's the book called
the
again?
subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, but shout out. I'll put that link to the book as well in the
Mm,
comments. Obviously, with this mindset, things you've done like the 3 second rule, it's led to you being able to start the podcast, which is obviously very public. Everyone can see it, everyone can watch it, everyone can listen to it. Also, very public with your LinkedIn posting, being very honest about your own journey in sales, not just about the wins you have, but also the failures that you've experienced in the moment and things you want to do differently in the future. That's what I really love, that honesty that you have, putting yourself out there, showing how you're learning in real time so other people can be inspired and also have some steps to adopt to themselves. But I want to go back to the first moment, or if there's one of the earlier moments that you can remember where that mindset of not caring what other people think really started to actualize in your actions. So, was there a moment you remember that was one of the first times you used that 3 second rule? And could you like delve into what happened in that experience?
mm. This is like more of a recent experience, but literally, like I would just go on a walk around in my neighborhood and I would just say good morning to every single person that I walked by. And most of the time, people would say good morning back or say hi back. Sometimes some people won't because they're too busy looking at their phone and they're in a rush to go somewhere. But yeah, that's fine. Like, just, I think it's all about just spreading that positivity and it's just more of a experiment and test for yourself, right? Where you just look someone in the eyes, smile at them and say, morning, like, how are you today? Well, just very like basic, simple human things like that. That sort of just develop that kind of attitude within yourself. And then I think more of just in life in general is just not being afraid to ask the dumb or silly questions out there. And I think that applies to literally anything in life, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in your like social and friend environments. Like people think, oh, like, I don't know if I should ask this question, or maybe it's a bit rude or something like that. It's better to just ask that question because if you don't know the answer to that question, something's being lost in communication there, right? So I think yeah, it's just really important to just be able to directly communicate with people, and it's something like it's a skill that people don't really learn in university. So yeah, some things just can't be taught, and I think it's pretty important just to start giving less fucks basically about stuff because the less
Yeah.
fucks you give. the better quality of your life. I think that's also a quote from the book.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I can definitely relate to that because most of the things that hold us back is just overthinking. In terms of that icon, that good morning challenge where you just said good morning to everyone as you walk past, how did you feel after some people said it back and after people ignored you? What was the feeling?
You feel really positive. I genuinely think it releases a lot of endorphins into your brain, and you're just in such a great mood afterwards to start your day when you've interacted with a few human beings, you've gone out for a walk, which is like good exercise. You've bathed in the sun and got some vitamin D. I think it's ultimately the best way to start your day. And a lot of us work in offices where there's just no sunlight, and I feel as if that can be as like healthy for you. Getting that walk in the morning, even if it's just 20 minutes, a three times like return on investment in terms of your productivity, because everyone's stressing about, oh, I've got to work 8 hours a day, but it's like, how many hours in those 8 hours are you actually working versus like not doing productive stuff? So yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I guess not just energy, but like just being more mindful by taking that walk in the morning, just being out there in nature. And as you said, not worrying so much about the 8 hours you have to work and just enjoying your life in the present. And as you said, that ultimately just makes you more productive. So, going a bit deeper into health and fitness, why does it matter to you? And apart from taking walks in the morning, what are some of the routines you have that help you stay fit?
For me personally, it's kickboxing and going to the gym. And the reason why like I do that is it doesn't matter like how much money you have, or really matters at the end of the day, except for yourself. When you really think about that deeply, then why aren't we taking better care of our health, right? I think it's such a big thing that we look after other people. We look out for other people saying, hey, look, take care of your health. You shouldn't be eating that. You should be staying fit. But then it's no, like, it's a double standard. Like, why are you telling other people that when you're not keeping yourself like in check, right? And if you want to be able to support your partner, your family, your friends, how can you support them if you're not in the best physical and mental capacity, right? So yeah, I think that's just the biggest realization. Whether you're 20 years old or whether you're like 40 years old or whether you're 70 years old, I think if you talk to a lot of older people, for example, my grandma, they'll say health is the most important thing to you. You can replace a car, you can replace a house, you can earn that $100. I don't know that you spent back, or that if you've lost it somewhere, but if you lose your lungs or if you lose like a kidney, you can't just magically replace that. Yeah, so I think that's why it's been so important just to take care of your health, because at the end of the day, there's only just one you. There's one breath. Like that's literally all you have. You got your one body, so make sure you take care of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, because being in our early 20s, where health doesn't matter as much because you don't see how health can negatively affect you. Like you don't experience it firsthand most of the time. So I guess it's sometimes harder to see why it's important. But as you said, when you talk to older people, like your grandma, for example, they'll tell you that is the single most important thing. So I think it's really cool how you've taken these steps to be more healthy, more fit. You mentioned kickboxing and deadlifting, right?
Oh yeah, like powerlifting, yeah, gym.
Powerlifting, yes. How have you stayed consistent with doing those sort of exercises or sports?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to balance that with work. I'll be honest, in terms of that like work-life balance. But yeah, usually I go to the gym like after work, and or kickboxing after work, or try and fit in a really early morning session before work. So yeah, that just helps a lot.
Yeah, do you find it tires you out sometimes if you do it before, or it actually gives you energy for the day?
No, I feel like it's good. It actually releases a lot of endorphins and makes me feel really energized for the day.
Yeah, that's really cool. I wanted to jump back how you mentioned going to work earlier sometimes, like those are the habits that you've undertaken to, really put your more than 100% in and start the day with, a lot of conviction and working really productive early on in the day. And that all starts with waking up 1 or 2 hours earlier. So,
Mm.
what is your sleep and waking schedule at the moment? And how have you implemented a habit of being consistent in waking up or sleeping or eating dinner at certain times?
Yeah. So number one, it's just I learned this from Alex Mosey. It's if you want to if you want to wake up earlier, you need to sleep earlier. So it's like, why set an alarm to wake up at 5 a.m. when realistically you should be setting an alarm to be sleeping at 9 p.m. If you're not getting in bed by 9 p.m., forget about setting the alarm for 5 a.m. You're not waking up. It all starts with sleeping earlier. But yeah, my schedule right now is like sleeping 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. and waking up at 5 a.m. And I think for you to capitalize on this in the best possible way, it's not starting work at 5 a.m. But I learned this from a career coach of mine, which is the 3:20s. So that first hour that you wake up is like the golden hour. The 3:20s that I've been doing is first 20 minutes, just get some light exercise in. So just go for a walk or maybe do some jumping jacks or some push ups or whatever for the first 20 minutes. The next 20 minutes, I do some like self reflection and gratitude journaling. So it's like, what am I grateful for in my life? All of that. And then the last 20 minutes of that hour is learning something. So for me, it's reading a book. So I read like How to Win and Influence People, or it's reading Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss on negotiation. Learning something like that will just put me ahead because that's just going to compound over time. And it's if you do that every single day, then hey, you're literally learning so much knowledge from a book. And if you do that one time, that's one book, or like over the span of a week and like a month, that just compounds where you've just accumulated over like 100 books worth of knowledge, and you've just developed such a strong mindset and that discipline where you're because it's all in your mindset. I think it's honestly just all a mindset thing because people can take away your job, people can take away your money, all your belongings and material stuff, but something that people can never take away from you is your mindset. So I think that's just what makes people different these days. It's what separates the top performers or the rich from the poor or the athletes from the people who are just sitting on couches at home. It's just a mindset thing, honestly. It reminds you of David
Yeah.
Goggins, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that. The thing people can never take from you is your mindset, and that's completely true. And How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's such a good classic. I'll put the links to all those books, everything you mentioned, in the show notes as well. You said sleeping at 9/10, waking up at 5. I think the hardest thing, as you said, like setting that alarm for 5 means nothing if you don't sleep early. But
Mhm.
how do you actually start sleeping early? Because I know a lot of people our age, they sleep in the early AMs. So I guess what sort of sacrifices do you have to make in order to be able to sleep at 9/10?
Mm.
And is it possible to just start straight away, or like how have you started getting to that point where you're consistently sleeping at 9 or 10?
I think you've just got to make small little changes. So, say you're staying up to 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. and you're scrolling on TikTok or you're playing like League of Legends, then you can't just make that immediate switch to a 9 p.m. sleep. It's not going to work. Your brain still feels active and doesn't feel tired at 9 p.m. So if you're sleeping at 1 a.m., start sleeping at 12 a.m., right? Just a little bit of a difference makes a lot of a difference over time. And then instead of waking up at 10 a.m. after you slept at 2 a.m., maybe try a little bit earlier. Just start with an 8 a.m. start, right? And then eventually push that back to 7 a.m. And I think it's just finding what works for you ultimately, right? But I think a minimum is like you want to wake up before 8 a.m. So that's like the most ideal. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just wanted to jump back now to that whole mindset of not really giving a fuck, not overthinking, being more confident about what you want to do. How has that in general helped you get some of the wins along the way? And what's been most fulfilling ever since having this newer mindset in life? Yeah, like all with maybe it's the things you started, maybe it's certain roles you got, certain people you met, but what's been most fulfilling about it?
Think like the less like fucks that you give, I think the more respect that you actually can gain from your peers. When they see that this person isn't just another sheep that will just follow the herd, they're willing to stand up for their own values and rights. And I've seen that translate in work with some managers or even just in social settings. It's very admirable for a friend to just stand up for something. And 9 times out of 10, the response of the other person is like, hey, I totally get that. Sorry for doing that, for overstepping the boundaries. Most of the time, when you stand up for something you truly believe in and you value, people will respect it. And in that tiny 5% or 10% where the other person doesn't respect you for doing that, then they're probably not your friend, right? And I
Mm.
see that as a win because then you've actually filtered out the friends that aren't good in your life and you've actually strengthened the relationship of the friends that you have currently. So yeah.
Yeah, people who want to see you win are your true friends. So, yeah, it's a great point there that you made. What is next for you? So, I know you got the podcast. You're obviously still doing a lot of LinkedIn posting and still accelerating through your tech sales career. What would you say is next? What is for the rest of your year? What are the main things that you're trying to achieve?
I'd say for me, it's three things. Number one, it's becoming a sales manager in my current role. So stepping up into a leadership position where I'm able to coach other sales reps. Number two, to continue to develop the Wings and Sales pod. We've hit 10 episodes, so the next milestone is going to be 21 because I think 90% of podcasts don't make it past that 20 episode mark. So by reaching the 21 episode mark, you're already in the top 10% of podcasts in the world. And number three is just continue my LinkedIn content creation. And through that, I'm developing my personal brand. I'm meeting more people in sales or just in LinkedIn who think in a similar way to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. So guys, watch some Wings and Sales podcast episodes after this. I think you'll enjoy it. And I wanted to finish off with two questions that I ask every guest. And the first one was, if you had to live your life through the words of one single quote, what would it be?
I have a quote. So it's by Alex Mosey, and it's imagine going up against this competitor, someone who is focused, someone who's disciplined, someone who like puts in their reps and is willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. Be that competitor. Be that person that you don't want to go up against and become that person that's so formidable, so like just undefeatable, and that's who you want to be. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. And this one, I guess, is a bit more outward. It may be similar for you, but if you could reach everyone in the world for 30 seconds, what would you tell them?
Be kinder to yourself. We're very critical of ourselves, but we need to be more loving of ourselves and be less harsh on ourselves. And also just spread the love to other people. So give a compliment to someone random today and spread some positive words and just spread like a lot of love and I guess affection for people out in the world, even if you don't know them. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I wanted to actually ask you now the question from the last guest, James Wu. So you said, think of the most pivotal moment of your life. What would you do differently?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the most pivotal point in my life so far was getting that call from Earlywork to join the academy because that just completely changed the trajectory of my life. And what would I have done differently? Honestly, not too much, but I feel like what I would have done differently is just explored more options in university where rather than just being tunnel visioned on only a few opportunities to go for, the big four banks or big four accounting, experiment with other different like pathways in life, whether that's traveling overseas for 6 months to see like different cultures and experiences, or whether it's just trying out a lot of different kind of jobs and then seeing out what you ultimately enjoy. That's what I would have done differently. Is just yeah, like explore what marketing looks like, explore what a finance job would look like. So just exploring as many different pathways as possible. So I think that's what I would do differently, and that's what that kind of experience taught me as well.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a question for the next guest?
That's a good one. I'd say like, who has made the biggest impact or influence in their life, whether it's a mentor or a role model or someone that they look up to. So yeah, who's made the biggest influence in their life? That's my question that I would want to leave for them.
Okay. All right. I'll be excited to hear the answers to that one. Thank you. All right, bro. So, just last thing before we finish up, is there anywhere you want to direct listeners? Any things you want to show them, where they can find you, where they can find out more about Wings and Sales, and just, yeah, anything you want to direct them to?
Yeah, just my LinkedIn. So just search up Vincent Lee and you'll see my beautiful professional photo in a blue background. Uh, so yeah, you'll find me there.
All right. Easy. I'll put everything in the show notes for the listeners. And, mate, thank you for your time. I've loved having the chat. And, yeah, until next time.
No worries. Thanks.